What's up, YouTube fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of Hood Tales, I will talk about the case of how a mother and her 2 children lost their life senselessly at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. Before we get into this video, welcome if you're new here to our channel. Please feel free to subscribe. Click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button. Share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's jump right into it. 30-year-old Desandria Wallace had big plans of starting a new life for herself and 2 children. Her oldest daughter, LaPortia Wallace, and her son, 3 years younger, Jacoby Wallace. She decided to move them away from their hometown and embark on new beginnings where they could be closer to family. Desandria was described as a great mother who loved her children dearly and wanted the best for them. Desandria Wallace, affectionately known as Tweety, was born on August 19, 1990 in Greenwood, Mississippi. Greenwood, which is just 100 miles north of Jackson, was once at the center of the cotton planter culture in the 19th century. Desandria grew up believing in the Christian faith and was educated in the Tallahatchie School District. Desandria was known for being caring and loving. She loved talking on the phone and was very outgoing and full of energy and laughter. In 2019, Desandria was faced with losing her housing in Mississippi, so she decided that it was time for a change. According to reports, Desandria contacted family in St. Paul, Minnesota, to make arrangements for her and her children to relocate. When Desandria lost her place in Mississippi, she asked her first cousin if her children could come stay with her in Minnesota until she could make the move north herself. Her cousin agreed to take in LaPortia, known to family as Sugar, and her brother, Jacoby, who was known as Kobe, and drove them back to her White Bear Lake home in the summer of 2019, according to news reports. Desandria's cousin enrolled the children in school and extracurricular activities alongside her own children. Desandria's cousin said the children were excited, especially for the snow. According to news reports, the children stayed for more than a year. LaPortia played basketball at her middle school and had dreams of being in the WNBA. She was working hard to make the high school team. Her brother Jacoby attended elementary school and was an energetic kid who had a big smile. He loved playing video games like Fortnite. By the fall of 2020, things had started to fall into place for Desandria and her children. Desandria had found an apartment in a nice 4-plex in the Payne-Fallon neighborhood of St. Paul. Desandria had also started a job as a personal care attendant. Desandria also began a new relationship. She introduced her family to a man named Keith Jones. However, that relationship was rocky and went sour fairly quick. Despite the trouble in her new relationship, Desandria and her children were reunited and things were going well. But just a few months into their new home, tragedy struck Desandria and her children. On January 30th, 2020, a Saturday afternoon, an officer was sent to do a welfare check on Desandria after an out-of-state family member requested an officer go over to her apartment. Reports say that once the woman answered the door, she told officers, "I'm fine. Tell them I'm fine." According to reports, the officer asked if she would like to use his phone to call her relative to let them know she's okay, but she declined. The officer left. According to news reports, a half an hour after that, one of Desandria's cousins said that her cousin had texted her, "What are you doing?" Reports went on to say that shortly after 3 p.m. that day, Desandria's aunt and uncle stopped by her house on Jessie Street. One report says that their uncle called out but got no response, but he heard noises coming from inside and he noticed the door was ajar. When he proceeded to enter his niece's home, he noticed his great-niece, 14-year-old LaPortia, laying there. At first, he thought she was asleep. Desandria was lying on the couch, motionless. He then heard his 11-year-old nephew say, "Uncle, help me." That's when he noticed all the blood and immediately told his wife to call 911. According to reports, a nearby resident reported hearing 9 to 10 pops in 3 separate spurts before seeing people run from the fourplex. Officers were met outside by the 911 caller, who told them that there were 3 people inside that were injured, the department said. As officers entered the residence, LaPortia was laying mortally wounded behind the door. Desandria was also hit and not breathing. Both mother and daughter were pronounced gone at the scene. Her son, Jacoby, was also hit but was still breathing. According to reports, Jacoby said in front of relatives and law enforcement that his mother's boyfriend, Keith, was the one who pulled the trigger. Jacoby was rushed to the hospital clinging to life. Paramedics relayed that Jacoby lacked vital signs after suffering wounds to his chest and arm. Desandria's cousin had arrived at a chaotic scene outside of Desandria's apartment. She then went to the hospital to be there for Jacoby. As the surgeons emerged from the operating room, they had terrible news. Jacoby fought as hard as he could, but sadly succumbed to his injuries. He was pronounced deceased just after 6 p.m. that day. It was a devastating blow to the family. Later autopsies revealed that Jacoby was hit 5 times. Desandria was hit twice, being struck in the heart, aorta, and lungs, and LaPortia was shot 10 times. Officers found a total of 14 shell casings at the scene. According to news reports, Desandria's cousin confirmed to police that she was dating a man named Keith at one point. Surveillance video from a neighbor's home showed a man peeking outside of the home about a half hour before Desandria and her children's bodies were discovered, records state. It goes on to say that the man went back inside and then ran out of the house, leaving in a silver Jeep Compass that had visible body damage. Later that day, a Minnesota state trooper came upon said Jeep. The driver told the trooper he was out of gas. The trooper was responding to a call and said that he'd be back to help afterwards. When the trooper got back to the Jeep, the driver was gone and the keys were on the seat. The trooper also said in reports that he smelled something mechanical burning. The Jeep was towed and was identified as the Jeep seen leaving the scene of the horrific crime. When officers got in touch with the owner of the Jeep, she told police a man she knew as Santana took her vehicle without her permission earlier that day. According to news reports, surveillance video from 2150 Wilson Avenue showed the man who left the Jessie Street home in the Jeep was met by a woman who let him in the building at 5:12 p.m. on January 30th. Officers identified the man as 26-year-old Keith Jones and executed a search warrant the next day, where they found a gun that was later confirmed to be the weapon used to kill Desandria and her children. When the SWAT team descended on the 2150 Wilson Avenue apartment, they arrested Keith Jones and took him in for questioning. According to reports, the name Santana was an alias Keith used on Facebook. Officers then spoke to DeSandria's nephew, who said Keith was his aunt's ex-boyfriend. According to reports, DeSandria's nephew said Keith continued to go to his aunt's house even after they broke up, including breaking into the home through a window a month prior to the incident, and swung his aunt around and accused her of dating other men, according to documents. The nephew told investigators Keith Jones then shot at his aunt with a pistol the next morning, but missed. The nephew identified a photo of Keith from Facebook as his aunt's boyfriend. Police were not aware of that incident, charges state. The nephew said DeSandria began seeing someone new on January 10, 2021. According to TwinCities.com, DeSandria told her best friend that she was trying to leave Keith behind. In the summer of 2020, her best friend said she was there when the couple argued. According to the best friend, Keith Jones said something to DeSandria along the lines of threatening her life and saying that there ain't nothing your family can do about it. DeSandria's best friend said she used to cry to her about the names that Keith called her. Her best friend said she went to DeSandria's East Side home a week prior to the incident, and she said Keith opened the door holding a weapon. She thought maybe someone was after him and that's why he had it. She said, "I never thought he was going to use it against her and her kids." Despite these incidents leading up to that grim and dark day, there were no complaints filed with the St. Paul Police Department involving the estranged couple. A cousin told the Pioneer Press that DeSandria Wallace informed her in November or December of 2020 that she was 2 months pregnant. News reports revealed that once Keith Jones was taken into custody, he agreed to speak with detectives. He told them he had been in Minnesota for about 8 to 12 months and that his brother had been slain several months before the incident. Keith Jones said he was going through a life experience that he didn't understand and that he was going to save someone so that they wouldn't have to go through what he did, the document said. Keith said he felt as if he was being framed for his brother's death. Investigators showed him pictures of the 3 victims, who they said Keith Jones identified all by name. Keith at first claimed that he had not seen DeSandria Wallace for several weeks. He later admitted to being at DeSandria's on January 30th, eventually admitting to shooting the family. He said that he had slain DeSandria and her 2 children because he wanted to save the children because their mother was playing mind games and corrupting the kids, the report said. "I saved them. They can go up there and be holy," Keith Jones said to investigators, according to the charges. Keith Jones told investigators that the handgun recovered from the Wilson Avenue apartment was the weapon he used in the incident. He told investigators that he shot DeSandria first. Keith Jones said he's not a monster and that he kissed them all, charging documents said. Keith added that he was trying to break the cycle and did not want them to feel the pain that he felt, documents said. Despite confessing to his version, he denied ending anyone's life to investigators. According to reports, the affidavit revealed that when investigators asked Keith Jones why this happened and why he stood over and hit LaPortia's body so many times, Keith Jones said it was for her to be up there while he looked upwards. When investigators asked him if DeSandria was the evil source, he disagreed and pointed to the photo of her son, Jacoby, that was on the table. Days after his arrest, Keith was charged with 3 counts of second-degree murder. His bail was set at $5 million. DeSandria, LaPortia, and Jacoby's cousin created a GoFundMe to help raise funds to cover homegoing costs for the family. They lamented how hard it was to have to plan 3 funerals at one time. The family tried hard not to blame themselves. A local DV advocate told news reports that even well-trained people don't necessarily see red flags, so it's not something families can ever blame themselves for. And there's only one perpetrator in the situation, and that's who should be blamed. The family held a vigil in their memory just days after the heinous incident. I couldn't imagine the immense heartache the family felt during this time. Months later, in September 2021, Keith Jones pleaded guilty to all 3 counts. The state's attorney's office asked for more than 72 years. According to the arrangement, if Keith Jones is a model prisoner, his sentence could be reduced to 48 years, but he would still be 75 years old when he's released. Prosecutors asked that he be given consecutive sentences, which means he'll serve a set amount of years for each victim. 28 years plus 22 plus 22, according to the plea agreement. His sentencing date was set for November 23, 2021, in a Ramsey County District Court. On the day of the sentencing, emotions ran very high in the courtroom. Keith Jones stood motionless, staring straight ahead as the family members of the mother and children he slayed gave their victim impact statements. Prosecutors said the case had the most victim impact statements they had ever seen. According to news reports, when DeSandria and her children's uncle angrily threatened Keith Jones to beg for mercy, Keith laughed into the microphone. 2 county sheriff's representatives walked closer to him, instructing him to keep quiet. Unable to handle the stress of the hearing, 5 other representatives stood around the courtroom as emotional members of the family came and went. DeSandria's mother told the court, "I will never forgive him for what he did to my daughter and grandchildren. I hope he rots in hell." Reports say family members struggled to reconcile the friendly person DeSandria Wallace brought to a Sky Zone birthday party a few months prior to the incident with the man who slayed their loved ones. Keith Jones was sentenced to 72 years in accordance with the plea agreement. He had already served 297 days behind bars. Keith Jones declined an offer to speak on the sentence. The only motive he ever offered was in his initial interview where he told police that he had rescued the children from their mother and that they could go up there and be holy. Keith's lawyer said little and only asked the judge to honor the plea agreement. The judge called Keith Jones's actions narcissistic, sick, and crazy. The judge said this to Keith Jones: "Your selfish and cowardly acts took the lives of 3 innocent people, destroyed a kind and generous family that let you into their lives. You did the most cowardly act in my opinion. God have mercy on your soul." Wow, fam, this story is absolutely heartbreaking. May DeSandria, LaPortia, and Jacoby Wallace rest peacefully. My sincerest and deepest condolences to the family and their loved ones. I pray that they have received some closure. Their family appears to be extremely tight-knit. They looked out for each other. So for something like this to happen, I'm pretty sure it shook them to their core. I pray that God Almighty grants them peace and comfort after experiencing such sudden tragic losses. Keith Jones is a coward and deserves much more than what he got. The fact that God allows him to still breathe is a testament to his mercy. I don't know if mental health issues played a part in his thought process. He did seem a little thrilled with his unhinged confession. However, I believe he was fully well aware of his actions. He stood over those babies and took their lives and their mother, all because she didn't want him anymore. I could only imagine their horror. I am so sorry that this happened to this mother and her children. And Desandria was reportedly expecting her third child, so that's all the more tragic. Reports didn't confirm whether or not Keith was the father. Again, I am so sorry for their loss. This story was so hard to get through. If you or anyone you know is suffering from a DV situation, please reach out to advocates and local resources that may be able to help you safely exit the situation. I'm praying for you, and I hope that you can find access to necessary resources in your area. All right, fam, that's it for this video. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
What's going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. If you're new to the fam, welcome. Be sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell for future uploads. Also, please share the channel and content with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. We appreciate the love and support like always. But let's get right into the story. Some people point out other couples and people with their significant others and like the way they move. They call that relationship goals. To the point, they try to take what other couples do and bring it into their own personal lives. But I don't believe in that myself, because everything that glitters is not gold. You never know what goes on in-house, because with social media, everybody's on the outside looking in. Some people base their love off what you could do for me, whether it's financial or even on the street level. Some people use their boyfriend or girlfriend to trap for them, hold blicks. Some even go to the extreme on some Bonnie and Clyde type time, going on licks together, in some situations, even hits. I'm not trying to judge. Whatever floats a person's boat. Some feel like that's true love, having a so-called ride or die. But on today's episode of Hood Tales, we will be taking it to Pawtucket, Rhode Island to discuss a crazy case involving a young couple whose love was based on how much damage they could do, leaving one person gone. According to sources, at the time in 2019, 18-year-old Shaylin Moran was looking for love online. In the fall of that year, she would start talking to a young man named Leonard that was also from Rhode Island. The two got to know each other online for a few months before finally meeting up face to face. In October, Shaylin allegedly went to Leonard's home on Baxter Street in they same city, where the young man lived with his mother. As he introduced his new girl to his peoples, everything seemed good. But about 4 days into the visit, the couple got into an altercation that ended with Shaylin storming out the home and by the end of the night, going to the local police, filing a report claiming Leonard had put hands on her. A no contact order was placed between the two, which was crazy, being that they only physically was around each other for 4 days and really didn't even barely know one another. But allegedly, after the breakup, the young lady started acting crazy and showing the dark side, texting Leonard, making threats, including telling him she will take him out, his mother, his brother, even the family Doug. Even stating she would go to the daycare where his mother worked. The young lady would also post on social media about needing someone to ride or die for her, even posting a story about a man that started shooting at a party because not enough people sung happy birthday to his girlfriend, in which Shaylin stated she wanted somebody like that. The young lady would start back her search for love online. Her and a man named Jack Doherty would start chopping it up, messaging back and forth. It was alleged that Jack was living in Albany, New York at the time. The young man had a thing for Blitz and would often post how if somebody tried him, he was ready to go all out, and referred to himself as a golf shooter or Bloody Boy Santana. The two would become super close through social media, and when Shaylin would post about her ex-boyfriend, Jack would let it be known he would go all out for her. It was clear the two were on a different type time. According to sources, Shaylin could not let the situation with her ex go and painted a picture to Jack as a woman who had been scorned, and which, of course, only hearing one side of the story, he was riding with her. As the couple decided to link, Jack would message her stating he was coming to town for New Year's and he was bringing the blick with him. This is where things get crazy. On New Year's Eve, once Jack got to Rhode Island, the couple decided to go to a party where allegedly Jack proposed to Shaylin, in which she accepted. Then allegedly, to solidify their union, they planned to move on Shaylin's ex to go to the home and shoot whoever opened the door first. After the party, the couple drove back to a local Hampton Inn hotel where Shaylin stayed in a room. But Jack was on a mission to prove his love. He grabbed the blick he brought with him and caught a lift to Shaylin's ex Leonard's home. As the man got to Baxter Street, he knocked on the door where Leonard's mother answered, 54-year-old Cheryl Smith. Then shots went off, and Jack ran off, called a lift, went back to the hotel. On the way back, texting Shaylin, "Now this is forever," in which she texts back, "I'm yours forever." As Jack made it back to the room, the couple would post multiple pictures and captions on social media, announcing their engagement, also stating, "We are some fighters and shooters." Jack would state, "Hell no, I went beast mode last night," with the hashtag bloody. But back on the scene, police found Cheryl in her home suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, where unfortunately she would not survive. As authorities talked to Leonard, and also knowing the ex-couple's situation, they quickly went to Shaylin's social media, where the pieces of the puzzle was lined up perfect for them. Through posts, Jack coming into town, bringing a gun, talking about the shooting last night, and more. The police tracked the couple to the hotel, in which the couple were coming out prepared to leave. When they were approached, Jack tried to rush police while Shaylin got away, but both were taken into custody on the spot. Jack allegedly even had the murder weapon on him and an extra clip. Both were charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy, and other charges. As the case made it to trial, the social media posts with other evidence was enough to seal the young lady's fate. At first, the couple would plead not guilty, but eventually, Shaylin would cop out to a life sentence for being the alleged mastermind and the plot. As for Jack, I believe he is still fighting his case. The young man has not been sentenced yet. Rest in peace to Cheryl. I send my prayers and condolences to the family. This story is crazy all around the board, from beginning to end. But the moral is, don't be a fool for love or believe everything a man or a woman tells you. Check the situation for yourself before you crash out for somebody you barely know. It's clear both Jack and Shaylin had some real issues, and when they got together, they fed each other's dark side, leading to an innocent lady gone and two young people throwing their life away behind a weird love. So remember, we gotta succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Man, rest in peace to Cheryl. This situation is wild, super wild. You know, I've been wanting to do this story for a minute, but I was like, should I make it a hood tale? Should I make it something else? But y'all already know, y'all get the point. At the end of the day, man, for young couples out there, I'm a firm believer in real love and loving somebody and having somebody to hold you down. Ain't nothing like having somebody that's rocking how you rocking. But at the end of the day, if somebody trying to get you to throw your life away behind an ex, or they bitter or something like that, you gotta think about that situation. You don't even know this person. You don't know this man. You don't know the situation. All you know is what she telling you or what he telling you if you're a woman. So at the end of the day, you can't crash out because somebody telling you something. You know what I mean? Because a real person, real love, they'd be like, yeah, this happened, but look, I'm looking for better. I'm trying to be in a better situation, so we gonna leave that in the past. You feel me? Ain't nothing wrong with talking about your previous relationships, but you can't get nobody to set their mind on doing nothing to your ex or to their peoples because you hurt. You feel me? And at the end of the day, she ain't even know her ex that long. They only physically was around each other for 4 days. But yeah, man, crazy situation. Like I said, Jack ain't been sentenced yet. I think he's still fighting. She pled guilty. I think she knew it was over with. You know, young lady. Young, super young. I think she like caught life when she was like 20 years old. You feel me? But like I said, man, they had some things going on. Some dark stuff. Some of them posts was crazy. You feel me? But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this one in the comments below. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.
What's up, YouTube fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of Hood Tales, I'll be discussing the case of Tia Young, an adulterous wife who did the unthinkable to her husband in an attempt to collect a large insurance payout. But before we get into this video, welcome if you're new here to our channel. Please feel free to subscribe. Click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button. Share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. Let's jump right into it. George Young was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1974. He was a 1992 graduate of Conway High School in Conway, South Carolina, where he met his later wife of 22 years, Tia Young, whom he would later have 3 sons with. After living in South Carolina for most of their lives, Tia and George relocated to the metro Atlanta suburb of Beaufort. The community where they lived would be considered pretty quiet and safe. George at one point worked installing security cameras. Eventually, he would go on to start his own security firm, shadowing Atlanta celebrities as their bodyguard. Not only did George own his own successful company, he was also a member of Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witness in Lawrenceville. Tragically, George's passing left a void in his family's heart. The family had their suspicions and wanted to get to the bottom of why this happened. Not only was George a hard-working man, he was a devoted father and husband. George loved his family and would do anything for them. His generosity did not stop at just his family. George extended his hand to a family friend in need, Harvey Tim Lee. Tim, George, and Tia all grew up in the same town in South Carolina. So in 2015, when Tim fell on hard times after moving to the area, George let Tim move into his family's home in Beaufort, George also gave Tim a job at his very successful security firm. One night in mid-November of 2017, George Young worked security detail for rapper Lil Yachty at his clothing line launch at Lenox Mall in Atlanta. After the event was over at around 11:30 p.m., George began his drive home. While on his way home, George was on the phone talking to one of his employees all the way up until he pulled into his driveway. He told the person on the other line that he had made it home and hung up. Suddenly, what sounded like gunshots rang out near George's home. George's wife, Tia, made a 911 call to report what she might have heard as firecrackers or gunshots. As she was on the phone, a male voice could be heard by the 911 dispatcher telling Tia it was her husband, George, and he was hit. Tia appeared to be shocked on the 911 call and ran outside to her husband's side. The 911 dispatcher told Tia to perform CPR until EMTs arrived, but she said she couldn't do CPR. So Tim, the male voice who was heard on the 911 call, stepped in and began to administer CPR to George. The family friend was telling George to hold on just a little longer. But sadly, by the time paramedics arrived at the home on Montauk Hill Drive, it was too late. 43-year-old George Young had succumbed to his wounds and passed away at the scene. According to reports, George had been shot twice, once in the face and once in the chest. Once Gwinnett County detectives arrived, they suspected that George Young may have been ambushed from the side because he dropped everything as if he was caught off guard. Although George was hit twice, they were only able to find one shell casing at the scene, which detectives found strange. As the investigation continued, reports say detectives interviewed George's wife, Tia, the family friend, Tim, who Tia told detectives and news outlets was her brother, and Tia's mother, who was also staying with Tia and George. In the initial interviews with them, detectives didn't really get any leads. They all seemed just as stunned as to why someone would want George gone. Tia and George's children slept through the whole ordeal. When the news broke to George's family, they were all distraught and heartbroken. They all drove 6 hours to Georgia to find out who could have done this. Despite George's work in security, he had no known enemies, and everything from his security detail with Lil Yachty that night went well with no issues. During a news interview right after George's passing, Tia begged for the person who took her husband's life to come forward. She doted on her late husband and father of her children, wiping away tears before they even began to run down her face. Tia would allude to the fact that her husband may have been a victim of some sort of gang initiation, but detectives or George's family weren't buying into that story. The neighborhood where Tia and George lived was not the type of neighborhood you would expect a gang initiation to take place. George's attack was not random but targeted. George Young was laid to rest on November 25, 2017. Investigators had their suspicions on who took out George Young, and those suspicions were geared towards Tim Lee, the family friend and the man investigators thought was Tia's brother. But it turned out he was anything but that to Tia. When detectives spoke with a neighbor, they told them that after hearing the gunshots, they saw a person who looked like Tim Lee running toward George Young's truck. The person who looked like Tim Lee went under the truck and possibly retrieved something. When investigators questioned him about what the neighbor saw, he admitted that he was retrieving a tracking device that George had requested he place on his truck for safety, because George may have been in some type of trouble. He alluded to the idea that George was illegally dealing weapons, but investigators didn't believe that. Detectives also paid close attention to Tia's actions following her husband's passing. While everyone handles grief differently, Tia showed no sign of emotion after losing her husband of 22 years, and so tragically. George's family said Tia was happy-go-lucky after George passed away. It wasn't even as if she was mourning his loss. Tia and Tim's inconsistencies in the timelines of what happened that night made investigators even more suspicious. Tia told detectives one thing and Tim told them another. It was also revealed that detectives found out from Tia's middle son that his mother gave him a sleeping pill that night to help him sleep. Police's theory is that Tia gave all of her son's sleeping pills that night, and that's how they were able to sleep through everything. However, Tia denied such allegations, but the plot thickened as time went on. Reports say that after George had opened his home to Tim Lee and gave him a job, soon enough, Tim and his wife Tia started to have an affair. Investigators believed the affair began in May 2017 or sooner. Detectives found explicit text messages between Tim and Tia talking about their intimacy and relationship, with Tia even allegedly telling Tim she wasn't texting anyone else and she was only loyal to him. Leading up to George's slaying, it was no secret to those close to the couple that their marriage was on the rocks. Tia wanted to leave the marriage, and George was pretty bummed about that. It was also discovered during the investigation that George had a $1 million life insurance policy with Tia as the beneficiary. In one of Tia's first interviews with detectives, she told them she wasn't even sure if they had life insurance, and if they did, it probably lapsed. But later on, it was found out that she called the insurance company just 2 days after George was slain outside their home. With a mountain of circumstantial evidence against Tim and Tia, detectives brought them back in for questioning in April 2018. When confronted with the affair and newfound evidence, Tim Lee requested his attorney and didn't talk to investigators any further. Tia, however, admitted to the affair, but denied having anything to do with her husband's slaying. However, police had enough evidence to charge both in connection with George Young's horrific slaying. They were charged with malice hit, felony hit, and aggravated assault. Officers alleged 38-year-old Harvey Tim Lee and 42-year-old Tia Young conspired to off George for the life insurance money so they could be together. Police claim the emotion Tia showed in TV interviews following her husband's slaying was all an act. Tia and Tim pled not guilty and both received no bail. A year later, on April 6, 2019, Tia Young was convicted of felony hit, aggravated assault, and 2 counts of criminal attempt to tamper with evidence. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years plus 2 years. Harvey Tim Lee was found guilty of malice hit, felony hit, and aggravated assault. He was sentenced to life without parole. Both Tim and Tia tried to appeal their cases, but their convictions were upheld. Tia Young has never received a penny of the $1 million policy. it most likely went to the children. Wow, fam, what a terrible tragedy. May George Young continue to rest in peace. My deepest and sincerest condolences to his family and loved ones. My thoughts and prayers are with them. What a shame that a devoted father and husband had to lose his life at the hands of his wife of 22 years and her lover. In my opinion, Tia and Tim had been in a relationship long before he moved in. I don't know how Tia's husband didn't see that, or maybe he did and just played it cool for the sake of the children. In my opinion, Tia Young is a very cold-hearted individual to have done such a thing. She took her children's father away from them, and now she's gone too. Both parents are no longer around. And as for her lover, Tim, grimy is an understatement. I mean, I don't understand how people think these types of devious and lethal plots will end happily ever after. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this in the comments below. Alright fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm out.
What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one fam, welcome back. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. Y'all already know it's all love. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Stand in your own lane, out the way. You would think that's a safe alternative all around the board to duck drama, any kind of situation, and to stay out them jails. But in a crazy way, sometimes trouble seems to spin a few blocks and find us no matter how hard we try to avoid it. It could be anything, from a stepped on shoe at a gas station. You apologize, but the person might not want to hear that. Now it's a whole situation. And sadly, that small thing can lead to guns coming out. It happens for even smaller reasons. But we never think at all our problems will come from love or being in a relationship. Sometimes, while on the journey to find the one, we might go through small problems with that person. Like the old song, Break Up to Make Up. We all know couples that are together on social media, happy 1 minute, 2 days later, they are done posting angry posts. But a few months go by, and a few new people later, they are right back together. That could possibly be a good thing, depending on how you see it. But the thing is, in a short time, it might sound strange, but the rebound person they were seeing during the split might catch feelings as well. Now you get back with your peoples, thinking it will be happily ever after. But in only a short time, you have a situation. And what if the person has connections higher than most out here? It could go all the way left if they get their feelings hurt. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we will be taking it to Memphis 10 to discuss the case of a Memphis police who lost it and did the unthinkable after a breakup. Back in 2018, 26-year-old Patrick Ferguson became a police officer in his city of Memphis and took an oath to protect and serve his community. Everything seemed to be going in the right direction for the young officer. Fast forward a few years, allegedly, Patrick met a young lady he was vibing with real heavy, and by 2021, the young officer had caught feelings. Whether the woman knew it or not, but the relationship wouldn't last. and the two split. A 30-year-old man named Robert Howard would come in the picture, but according to sources, some say he was always dead. Allegedly, the young lady Patrick was dating was Robert's ex-girlfriend, and they were just on a break when she started seeing the police officer. Robert was said to be a small-town dude, originally from Arkansas, loved music, had 3 kids, pretty much stayed away from any problems. He relocated to Memphis, but would go back and forth between the 2 states. While back in Tennessee, Robert and his ex started back up the relationship, and Patrick would not take this well at all. The officer would start plotting on how to get Robert out the way for good. And out of all things, he would use his resources from the force. In January 2021, Patrick was on duty just like any other day. Only that day, he had other motives in mind than patrolling. That evening, he drove to Robert's location on Mark Twain Street in Memphis. While the man was outside, a patrol car would pull up. Patrick hopped out, upped his blick, and told Robert to get in the back seat of the whip. He then drove about 20 miles from location, making Robert get rid of his phone as they rode, before pulling up on Frazier Boulevard and Denver Street. Not too long after, shots went off in the vehicle, hitting Robert. Patrick would drive to another location to get rid of his rival for good. After that, he got back in the patrol car and kept it moving. The next day would come, and Patrick allegedly had a change of heart about where he left Robert at. He recruited a man named Joshua Rogers to help him go back to the location and take the man's body back to Joshua's house to get rid of it once and for all. And for whatever reason, Joshua did what he was told. But after Robert was gone for a few days and no one heard from him, his girlfriend reported the man missing. She tracked his phone to a location in the intersection of Lamar Avenue and Shelby Drive, where she was able to find the phone, but no sign of Robert anywhere. A City Watch alert was put out on the missing man. Not too long after, police recovered a body near Wolf River Bridge, and unfortunately, it was Robert's. An investigation was started, but Memphis PD wouldn't think they would be looking into one of their own as a suspect until his name came up, Patrick. They started looking into the officer. His internet search history was a clear giveaway on cleaning products, how to get rid of a person. He bought center blocks. Also, his patrol car's back seat had been cleaned thoroughly. It was also surveillance video showing the man in the hardware store buying items, and the next day, video that caught the actual shooting. When taken in for questioning, Patrick admitted to the whole plot of grabbing Robert, taking him to a location, hitting him, also enlisting the help of a friend. Patrick was charged with first-degree hit, kidnapping, and other charges. Joshua Rogers would be charged with accessory after the fact, but he would later bond out on $25,000. After posting bail, he went on social media to clear his name. He stated he was in fear for his life and did what he was told, and stated he would never do anything like that under normal circumstances. After the arrest, it was still no motives until Robert's family spoke out, claiming Patrick took their peoples over a woman, and Robert never wanted any problems and did nothing wrong. A GoFundMe was started to lay the young father to rest. Patrick is no longer on the force, as Memphis police made a statement, no one is above the law, and how an officer did such a thing while on duty. While indictments came down on the former officer, he has only been to court a few times since the incident, as him and his legal team have postponed over 14 court dates. Patrick confessed to the whole thing, but has not received his sentence. Rest in peace to Robert. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family and his kids. It's hard to believe an officer would do something like this over a female, but that just goes to show everybody that people have issues, and it's even worse when they hold positions of authority. Robert did nothing wrong but get in a relationship, and it cost him his life. There's really no way he could have saw that coming. To all my fellas out here, never take out your hurt and pain on another man over a woman. Or not on her either. What happened to keeping it player? Go on to the next one, keep shining, and life goes on. But not when you act off emotions in someone's life and you could now be in a cell forever. That's not the move. So remember, we got to succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Man, crazy story. You know, I heard this a few months ago, and I was thinking to myself, like it had to be a motive. It just sounded real crazy. Why would he go snatch Robert up, drive him around in the back of the patrol car, and then do that? But then when his peoples came out and said it was over a young lady, I was like, man, that makes sense. You know, it seemed like nowadays that's the new norm. Like dudes out here going out bad, women doing the same thing, man. It's ugly when it comes to these relationships. But y'all already know I ain't gonna talk your head off. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you think about this situation. Remember to keep it respectful. It's all love, fam. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of Hood Tales. This your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one fam, welcome back. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. Y'all already know it's all love. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Teenage love. When you are young and in your feelings, your little puppy love seems like it will be the end all, be all. At that age, you might not be able to understand your emotions, especially if you never had those feelings before. And them young heartbreaks seem like you will be scarred forever. As you get older, you realize the lessons of that age can help you in your adult years. But being a teen and not fully mentally developed yet, you can take the pain of a breakup and turn that into rage. It's dangerous enough for grown people not being able to control their anger, but a young man or woman with anger, hurt, and a motive can be fatal. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we will be taking it to Miramar, Florida, to discuss a case of a teenage love triangle that ended tragic. Back in 2021, 18-year-old the white DJ Grant was a typical Florida teen. With a loving family, he attended Miramar High School where he was a senior and had plans to go on to college. Like most his age, he had a regular social life, hung out with friends from time to time, and dated young ladies. So when DJ started a friendship with another female that we would call Maya, things seemed normal. Like most young relationships, they had fun, kicked it, text, and talked on the phone. But things would go left when Maya's ex-boyfriend found out she was seeing DJ. At the time, 17-year-old Andre Clemens. He was feeling the pain of watching his ex move on. Knowing of DJ from being in the same area and going to the same school, Andre took the situation as disrespect and felt DJ and Maya were wrong for seeing each other. And once word got back to Andre, things went further than just talking with the two. He became enraged and decided he would do something about it. The crazy thing was, even though Maya was moving on, Andre had a new girlfriend as well, 17-year-old Christy Parisian. The two had a weird bond, often text about violence and causing harm, especially Andre, who decided to view DJ as a romantic rival, sending Maya text messages, making threats, telling her if DJ made her happy, get used to him not being around anymore. After texting his ex, the young man then thought of a plan to enlist the help of his new girlfriend and another young lady, 16-year-old Jaslyn Smith. Christy and Jaslyn lived in the same apartment complex and had become friends. Through messages to Christy, Andre insisted a hit will happen soon. I need your help. She would state back, I don't need you doing that right now. In which he stated, not now, after homecoming. In which the young lady decided to agree to help. He then spoke to Jaslyn, telling her DJ did the unthinkable to his ex-girlfriend and it wasn't consensual. Then on October 17th, 2021, the three teens decided to put the plan into motion. A few weeks before, Andre got Christy to start texting DJ and a promise of the two hooking up. Being a young man, DJ was all in, not knowing it could definitely be a setup. Around 7 p.m., the three teens, all dressed in black, put their cell phones on airplane mode and left them in the house. Armed with a blade and sword, they walked from Christy's apartment complex to DJ's in the Newport Towers. She texted the young man to come outside to do what they was talking about for weeks. He stepped outside in the stairwell, only to be met by Andre and Jaslyn. Andre stated, you know why I'm here and what I'm about to do to you, before the attack started. Slicing DJ as Jaslyn held him down. DJ tried to fight back and pleaded for mercy. Andre then took the sword and did the fatal wound to DJ's chest. This all was happening while Christy was playing lookout. The two then dumped DJ over a banister onto the sidewalk, picked him up to carry him to another location, as Christy allegedly cleaned the stairwell and other areas with cleaning supplies. The teens then set a bonfire, burning their black clothes, and then went about their normal routine. DJ's mother noticed he wasn't home or didn't return that night. She started asking people in the complex had they seen her son, in which everyone said no. She even asked Christy, in which she also said, no ma'am, I haven't seen him. Once Monday came around and DJ didn't show up for school, his parents filed a missing persons report. A search was soon start in the complex. At about 12 p.m., October 19th, as officers were searching for clues, one noticed blood outside of a building before following a trail to some bushes where DJ was found, about 30 feet from his home, unfortunately already gone. As news got back to his family and the community, people were in shock at how the young man was found. DJ's mother realized the last person her son contacted was Christy, and as detectives started to investigate, surveillance footage in the complex caught the whole situation. The three coming to the complex, DJ coming outside, parts of the attack, and them moving him after the fact. People in the area were able to give more details. Detectives decided to go talk to the teens, as Andre was turned around from band practice as he tried to attend like a normal day. As information came out, including the text messages between Christy and Andre, also the young lady admitted she promised DJ something to lure him outside. It was enough for all three to be taken into custody, charged with first-degree murder, criminal conspiracy, and tampering with evidence. The three were taken to a juvenile center in Broward County. Other evidence was found in a nearby lake in the apartment complex. As news got out of an arrest, a vigil was held for DJ, in which everyone showed their love and support for the family, including his high school, in which he was a senior at. A GoFundMe was set up to pay for the young man's funeral arrangements. People in the community were definitely surprised that a horrific incident like this took place to a good young man. As the trio made it to their arraignment, they would soon be charged as adults. More information came out and pointed out that Andre allegedly coerced the young ladies to set DJ up by stating the acts between him and Maya wasn't consensual. But when detectives talked to her, she told them everything was mutual. That was simply a lie. So far, the case is still ongoing. All three pleaded not guilty back in 2021, and no updates has happened as of now. They are all innocent until proven otherwise. Rest in peace to DJ. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family. Andre seemed like he couldn't handle another young man with his ex, even though he moved on as well, bringing them two young girls down a dark path. Whether they were manipulated or not, They made a decision that's gonna change their lives forever. Cause another young life is gone. DJ was just being a young man. This could have literally been any teen boy. Unfortunately, Andre viewed him as a threat. Bottom line, it was just hate. I couldn't imagine what was going through Shorty's head once he walked outside and saw he was set up. Young people, don't make an emotional decision over a season in your life. Trust me, that hurt will be gone so fast you won't even remember. But if you slip up and crash out, your life will be over before it starts. So remember, we gotta succeed not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Man, rest in peace to DJ. This a crazy story, man. This a wild situation. The latest update I seen, the young lady Christy tried to get bailed out. She tried to get a bond, but DJ family spoke out, basically stating like she basically lied to their face. When they asked her, did she see DJ? She said, nah, she ain't see him. So, man, she saying she ain't know what was going to happen. The other young girl saying they just thought they was going to fight. But everybody saying due to the footage and everything, the text messages and the situation, everybody had a mutual understanding what they was going to do. But yeah, man, they definitely innocent until proven otherwise. Let me know what y'all think about this situation in the comments. Remember to be respectful. This is another episode of Hood Tales. I appreciate you if you made it to the end, fam. This your boy Tony 2 times. Love, I'm out.